And for reference, you can look over here to my left. It'll be your right. They'll help you in your time. So please come forward, and as you do, give your name and address for the record.
My name is Leon Clay. I live at 2925 Woodland Hill Circle in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I own property at 1387 McFarland Boulevard East in Tuscaloosa. I purchased this property in 1979, and it's been a family property ever since. I first ran Clay Construction Company there for many years. I'm still an active building contractor, and after 45 years, still a building contractor. I don't operate my business from that location, but I am still in business. Since that time, it's been used. The property's been many things. It was a car dealership by variance a couple of times. It was later a car detail business, then a tutoring school, and then it was a short-term loan business. Most recently, it was operated as the Boulevard Salon. I'm quite proud of that because that was a business that was operated and managed by my daughter, Tommy Clay Metrock. He was operated there as that until April 27, 2011, the day the tornado struck. He destroyed our building and, of course, our salon. And then we now feel like we have an urgent desire to rebuild at that location. We're running into many difficulties as far as being able to do that because of so many of the restrictions brought about by the forward plan. We certainly miss our neighbors there. We were neighbors to Carly Patton Realty and Krispy Kreme Donut Shop, people we had friendships with and been neighbors to for many, many years. So it seems like we're facing extreme difficulties, if not impossibilities, of doing that. Further, I'd like to say we have considered alternate locations in different places in the city, and we run into problems there too. One of the main problems we run into with a new location is this business about change of use. And I'm not speaking of changing zoning or rezoning or asking for anything like that, any variances or anything, just a simple change of use. For example, if you're interested in buying a piece of property that was formerly, say, just a woman's dress shop, and you did want to open a beauty salon there, that's a change of use. Bringing on all of these rigid and what I would consider, in some cases, impossible conditions to try to do such a thing. One thing, let's just take an example of a piece of parcel of property on McFarland Boulevard that might be 70 foot wide. Now, if you purchased a piece of property that was 70 foot wide and you had to give up 10 feet on each side as a landscape buffer, even though on each side, I'm speaking, it's also zone VN, which would allow a beauty salon, that would cut it down to 50 feet wide. Then you can't park in the front, you have to park in the rear. A minimum of 10 feet to get to the rear yard, that cuts it down to 40. Not a lot of width to be able to manage this piece of property. And this is all brought about simply by this term change of use. We're talking about property. I've investigated 3 different locations that I might have an interest in purchasing. And we're talking about pieces of property that have a very nice building on this piece of property. And one of these pieces of property I've investigated and looked at and considered seriously has a large billboard on the right side. Well, that pretty much eliminates the possibility of driving to the backyard on the right side. I don't own the property, so I don't know all the details about the lease, but you can pretty much count on it being a long-term lease, as that's what they usually expect when they do such a thing. There's 12 foot on the left side of this particular property, and that would allow plenty to drive to the backyard and put the parking there. But if you put a landscape buffer on the left, that would eliminate that. That would mean you'd be facing the hardship of having to cut down a perfectly good building just to access the backyard to accommodate the parking. Now, if you did that, that's expensive and it is unnecessary, and it really, in fact, takes away a building that's already ideal for what our purposes would be if this is just an example, if we should acquire this property. And I consider that an extreme hardship. First of all, I say that because of the current property owner. It's going to make their efforts to market this property. Much more difficult than it would be if you didn't have to meet all these restrictions. It's already in place. I'm talking about property where not one window was blown out, not one piece of glass was broken, not one shingle was blown off of a roof. I'm not talking about something in the path of a tornado where it would be that effective. Is my time up, sir?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Clay.
Our next speaker is John Carney. Mayor, as Mr. Carney is coming, the next speaker will be Tommy Metrock.
Oh, yes. Mr. Carney?
John Carney, Express Oil Change, 604 15th Street, Tuscaloosa. Mayor Maddox and city councilors, thank you for letting me have the opportunity to speak to you this final time tonight. I fully expect this plan to pass this evening, and I will go back on concentrating on rebuilding my store in whatever fashion or shape that I'm allowed to do so. This will also be the final time for me to speak for some of the proponents who have been here, especially those members of the Forest Lake homeowners who have fought these local businesses tooth and nail in the name of community interest, have been a useful tool for proponents of this plan. But your time is coming. As has been stated before, this plan is a roadmap to nowhere, an atlas with no roads. We know where we want to go, we just don't know how to get there. We're told this is a plan we've got to pass. This is competition among other cities for federal money. However, Joplin, Missouri, a similar town to our size, isn't participating. I mentioned them last week in my comments to this body, and much to my surprise, several of you traveled there the following day. I spoke with a member of their delegation that made their trip to Greensburg, Kansas. He told me several interesting things. Joplin made only 2 code changes after their tornado: requirement of hurricane clips to new construction, and number 2, anchors in the foundation every 4 feet as opposed to 6 prior to the storm, and that's all. As a matter of fact, within 1 month of their May 22nd storm, they realized that some of their structures were non-conforming and some of their buildings failed to meet landscaping requirements. But in the interest of facilitating timely rehabilitation and rebuilding, ordinances amending these codes were passed unanimously. He told me of many construction accomplishments. A Walgreens, completely destroyed, had now reopened. One of their 4 Walmarts in the city was also completely destroyed. It will reopen November 1 or prior to. They even had one business completely taken out, but back open within 3 weeks. And they did have a residential construction moratorium for 60 days, but that was rescinded on the 38th day. Their tornado, similar to ours in size and distance, occurred 3.5 weeks after ours. They told me FEMA gave them 90 days to clean up their mess, and they did so. 11 school buildings were damaged or destroyed, but the schools opened on time on August the 17th. We're told this plan needs to be passed in order to update our building codes. Our codes are so antiquated, as we've been told, that hotels and motels were to only be adjacent to interstate highways. However, a Holiday Inn Express just 2 blocks from my store site opened 3 or 4 years ago. Somehow, some way, the city relented or compromised and got the job done. Greensburg seems to be a model town for green technology that became a reality show on the Discovery Channel. Prior to their storm in 2007, local wages averaged $10 to $12 an hour, and home prices were in the $50,000 to $60,000 range. Today, homes are twice as expensive, while wages are roughly the same. Kiowa County can't keep their employees from moving to other towns because monthly rental rates have doubled. Their mill tax is scheduled to see a 17.25% increase next year in order to meet county expenses. All new green constructed homes were given 10-year relief from property taxes. As a Kansas banker told me from that area, after the 10-year abatement ends, Greensburg will be the prettiest, greenest ghost town in America. They have a state-of-the-art hospital in which items can't be fixed because no one there has the technology to do so. This is typical of federal government programs. They come in and infuse their cash and distort the market. One can only remember the federal government's plan to put everyone into a home. The bubble burst after about 10 years. Home occupancy rates went from 64 to 69% by using cheap money and 100% plus financing. But people couldn't make the payments. We're still paying for that today. Mayor Maddox boasted that the city had an unheard of 4% debt ratio. I'm sure all the business folks that are here tonight would love to have that number. This plan seems to be a federal money grab, but why ransom our future? The walking and biking trails, along with the organic gardening feature, are only window dressing to garner public support. If passed, Tuscaloosa will be subjected to the whims and mandates of Washington, D.C. The proponents of this plan campaigned at the game over the weekend. More of what we don't need. Greensburg and other cities determining Tuscaloosa's fate. We continue to have concerts and benefits for relief, but no rebuilding of totally destroyed businesses, and sections of this city are still a mess. We don't need a plan. Just get out of the way. Pie-in-the-sky plans aren't applicable to business.
Mr. Carney.
Yes. I would love to get $100 for a $35 oil change, but my free market won't allow it. Businesses will restart if allowed to move forward. It's not government that inspires, rather it's the resilient, determined, optimistic spirit of this city that will take us to unforeseen heights. That quote should sound familiar. It's Mayor Maddox 2 years ago. Tuscaloosa Forward, a monumental 50-year plan that we've got to pass to see what's in it, and then we'll tweak it. Now, where have I heard that before? Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mr. Tommy Metrock, and if I'm pronouncing that wrong, if you would correct me. I'm sorry? A lady? Okay. Ms. Metrock. Our next speaker after her is Jonathan McClellan.
My name is Tommy Metrock, owner of the Boulevard Salon, formerly located at 1387 McFarland Boulevard East. This business was destroyed by the April 27th tornado. My family, the staff of the Boulevard Salon, and I worked nonstop in the days following the tornado, sifting through the remnants and debris, salvaging all we could so we could get back to work, despite the shock and despair we felt from what had just happened to our city. But my father, Leon Clay, had an optimistic resolve. We would rebuild. The building was insured. He owns the land and is the owner of Clay Construction Company. He knew he could build a strong and beautiful building. He headed up the demolition, and within days, the lot was clear, and we were ready to reclaim our place in what would be the new landscape of Tuscaloosa. But the city had other ideas. A 90-day moratorium on building permits was issued by Executive Order 7673. Immediately to follow, further restrictions were placed on new construction in what was at this point deemed the recovery zone. Yet somehow, every effort we made toward our recovery was slammed with a roadblock. But we remained positive. We heard that the city had hired BNIM, a consulting firm, to create a vision for Tuscaloosa. I attended a meeting facilitated by BNIM promoting their vision entitled Tuscaloosa Forward. Imagine my shock when I saw that BNIM had envisioned my salon as not a salon at all, but as a walking trail. That night, I met Sue Parker, owner of Parker Drugs, also in the recovery zone. We asked BNIM in writing if our voice as small business property owners could be heard. We gave them all of our contact information. We never got a response. In the meantime, business property owners were finding it increasingly difficult to get straight answers on where or even if we had a place in BNIM's Tuscaloosa Forward plan. The small business property owners, the tax-paying citizens who own the land and who have property rights, feel that we have been deleted from the future landscape of Tuscaloosa according to the Tuscaloosa Forward plan. Section 35 in the Constitution of Alabama states, "The sole object and legitimate end of government is to protect the citizen in the enjoyment of life, liberty, and property. And when the government assumes other functions, it is usurpation and oppression." BNIM did not take an oath to uphold the Constitution of Alabama, but every one of you did swear an oath. Please stand by the rights of your citizens and reject the Tuscaloosa Forward plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jonathan McClellan, and following him will be Mayor DuPont.
Good evening.
Good evening.
John McClellan. I live at 1610 Alica Place. I'm an architect, and I have a business downtown. I'd first like to say how much I appreciate the amount of work that you, the mayor, and the council, and the planning department have put into the plan that y'all are going to be considering tonight. And not just the plan, The situation that we were faced with after the storm was horrendous, and I think every aspect of Tuscaloosa city government rose to a challenge in a way that had never happened here before. And I think all of you should be justly proud of that, and all of us should be proud of you, our leaders, for having risen to the challenge. The process that we went through in order to get where we are tonight was a very important one and a very messy one. And there are going to be, no matter what happens at this stage, there are going to be people who are unhappy with the outcome. There are certainly things that I would have liked to see in the plan that aren't there, and I know there are things in the plan that a lot of other people wish weren't there. However, having seen the formulation of this plan up close as a member of the task force, having been to all of the meetings that were involved, the public meetings that were involved in formulating it, I am very, very impressed with what we got done in the amount of time that was allotted. To have come up with what is still only a strategic plan in the amount of time that we had to do it was phenomenal. The planning department and BNIM and all of you are to be commended for that. The plan that we have, whether it's perfect or not, is far and away, in my opinion, the best piece of planning that Tuscaloosa has ever seen. I know it's going to be a difficult transition for neighborhoods and businesses in the areas most heavily affected, but that was going to be true anyway. Building back is not a pretty process, and if we had built back exactly the way we had, all we would have been left with was where we were just 6 months or a year behind. With the plan that has been put together, we have a chance to make the city better than it was before. I remember at one of the early meetings, Mr. Lundell said, "We've got one chance to do this right." And this is the best chance we have to do this right. I urge all of you to vote for the Tuscaloosa Forward plan and to take the heat that will come, because obviously there are a lot of people in the community hurting, and I don't mean to minimize that at all. But what we need to do now is to plan for the future, and I am confident, I'm convinced that if we rebuild using the plan that's come from the Tuscaloosa Forward, and if we back it up with new ordinances and new zoning, that the city that we have in 10 or 20 years will be light years ahead of where we are now. And you will all be, you'll be able to look back on this accomplishment as one of the finest things you've done in your careers. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mayor Al DuPont. Following Mayor DuPont will be Lib Davis.
Mayor Alvin P. DuPont, 215 Cedar Crest. And I really, sitting there, realized being on this side of the podium is a lot different than being on the other side. It took me many years to find that out, but and tonight I knew I was going to lose my cause when Garrison walked in here with a coat and tie. I knew I was in trouble. So but again, I reiterate what I was talking before of the in front of my house. It's zone R1, a strip of land, and I know it's been talked about rezoning at R1 to business commercial. I might could put up with that a little, but if you know, if it's rezoned all the way that block, that puts a business right in front of my house. Have all the delivery trucks, everybody comes in and out. So maybe I'll apply for a beer license. Maybe that'd be easier to in there. But also, I think that we could work something in the rezoning. At least I've seen a lot of cities, and we've done that at a lot of places. Some type of berm or something to help keep that or restrict the traffic from behind the commercials. My biggest concern is the greenway, bicycle path, or whatever you call it. We're fortunate, several in Cedar Crest, and I'm talking about, you know, all this time I've been hearing this thing about everybody else which involved, but very little on Cedar Crest. Hey, Cedar Crest was hit just as bad as these other places. And we're on my street, my house and two other houses east of me were completely wiped out. The other houses are repaired. Right now we have six or seven houses in a row that we live in. We're growing grass. We live in there. And that's our home, been our home since '55. And I have serious concern about a pathway, a greenway, a walkway in my backyard. That would involve it about at least maybe pretty close to 25, 30 feet from my bedroom, which you build a bedroom in the back to try to cut the noise and everything out. But that would allow that people walking day and night have access to your property within 25 or 30 feet of your bedroom, or access to your property to decide to just cut through and go to the street or get off on and off, and a crime can commit. They can escape through there real easy, and I'm concerned about that. And that's my biggest concern. Is and I know it's a conception, and it might not happen before 10 years from now. So probably won't be here in 10 years, but I'll be in Evergreen Cemetery, but I'll still be close by. But that's my concern. I've reiterated this before, and I'd like for y'all to consider that, because when you finally retire and you get comfortable, you try to take it easy the rest of your life, and then this really has upset me, and these are my concerns, and I'd like for y'all to consider that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Our next speaker is Liv Davis. Following Ms. Davis is Joan Barth.
Hi, Liv Davis, 2427 10th Street East, Alberta. Yeah, we were hit, okay? And I'm just going to make this very short and very sweet. Most of you know me from being up here on various and sundry occasions, on various and sundry things that have gone on. I think this is might not be a perfect plan, but it's what we have, and we need it. I'm not a business owner. I'm not a government official. I'm a property owner who lives in Alberta and who cares about Tuscaloosa. I want to see the walking paths. I want to see all these businesses put back the right way. Don't rebuild for the sake of rebuilding. Do it right. Bring Tuscaloosa back the right way. Thanks.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Joan Barth. Following Ms. Barth is Christine Deach.
Joan Barth, 5541 Woodbury Lane. I'm here tonight on behalf of Tuscaloosa Neighbors Together and the 21 neighborhoods who are actually members of our organization, and sundry other people who came to our meetings following the tornado. This plan has been developed with an amazing amount of citizen input and business input as well. And you know that, you've heard that before. You can look at the number of people who visited the website, and that's something that TNT has strongly advocated for and endorsed, and we're very happy to see that. There is strong support for the plan among those who are members of TNT and who have attended our meetings. We conducted a survey that we had over 300 respondents to, and the respondents were all very favorable towards this plan. And one of the most highly endorsed concepts is it being a walkable and bikeable community. Now, having said that, we know that there is a clear need to, as this plan moves forward, to communicate with the citizens in the neighborhoods who are affected. No one wants things to pop up in their backyard, and my understanding is that it's not the plan, that no one should be surprised about what's going on. There is also a very strong need to encourage a dialogue between neighborhoods and the small business owners. This is clearly an issue that has come to light, not just here, but in other areas. So with that in mind, TNT strongly encourages you to adopt this plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Christine Deach. Following Ms. Deach is Ernest and Sue Parker.
My name is Christine Deach. My permanent address is 118 19th Street East in Forest Lake. I am temporarily residing at 1121 Overlook Road North. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, citizens of Tuscaloosa. On April 27th, I heard and felt the sounds of a tornado. In the weeks that followed, I would hear the echoes of that tornado. First, the voices of those who want more for Tuscaloosa, and now the fearful voices of those who want to go back to what was. You all know the sounds that Tuscaloosa is known for. T-Town, never down, roll tide roll. And while I'm no Monday morning quarterback, I do know that the winningest coach in college football never sent his players onto the field without a plan. He never said, "You've played this game. Just go out, do what you've done before. That'll be good enough." Bear Bryant didn't do what he did to enshrine the past. He worked for a better future. We are known for our champions in the athletic arena, in academic circles, and by the civic accolades bestowed on us for what we have done. And we want to keep on winning. Our city officials have proven that they can win. Results, not rhetoric, is their motto. We will be known by the choices we make from now on. We have one chance to do this right. If we don't put aside our fears of uncertainty and get out there with a plan and rebuild Tuscaloosa, we will have betrayed our traditions. We need to join those in this city who have already taken out more than 2,000 building permits worth more than $57 million. That's not rhetoric. That's not saying we are coming back. That is coming back. The world saw what happened here in April, and they will watch to see what we do next. Do we move together with a plan for a better Tuscaloosa? Or do we sit and moan about what used to be? Do we want to show the world a shining city on a hill or a haphazard sprawl? On August 25th, 2005, the world saw what a hurricane did to New Orleans. 6 years later, the world can still see what Katrina did to New Orleans. On April 27, 2011, the world saw what a tornado did to Tuscaloosa. Do we want the world to look at Tuscaloosa 6 years from now and see rubble and destruction? I think not. To be winners, we need to make post-tornado Tuscaloosa synonymous not with failure and excuses, but to be known as before for resilience and championship. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speakers are Ernest and Sue Parker. Following them will be our final speaker, Kenneth Walters.
Mayor Maddox and council members, my name is Sue Parker, and I represent the business property located at 501 15th Street East. I am speaking for both myself and my husband. Before I begin my presentation, I would like to ask that all of you envision the destruction created by April the 27th tornado on 15th Street and McFarland. I would also like to ask that you envision these same thoroughfares today, April the 6th. All of you will agree that you see cleared lots ready to begin the rebuilding process but after 4 months, there are no signs of new construction. What you see today is why the business property owners speak out to express their concerns regarding the Tuscaloosa Forward plan. I would like to begin my presentation by expressing appreciation to you for the opportunity given to a group of business owners to finally meet with several of you last week to discuss our issues and concerns regarding the Tuscaloosa Forward plan. There are many personal issues that each business property owner addressed, such as rebuilding 10 feet from the street, unrealistic demands for parking space ratio to the square footage of the building, footage of the building, excessive landscaping requirements that diminish land usage for parking, pedestrian and bicycle activity, and I can continue with many more. But the underlying concern was, how will the changes of Tuscaloosa Forward affect my business, and when will I know enough specifics to be able to plan my building and receive a building permit to begin rebuilding? Business owners are reluctant to begin the process of rebuilding when the Tuscaloosa Forward is a visionary plan, and the specific zoning, variances, etc., have not been determined. The majority of small businesses are focused on survival at a time when the economy is struggling. They cannot support a plan that is visionary, for they cannot see a tangible return on their investment of personal money and time. The Tuscaloosa Forward plan is a visionary plan for developing compact, walkable village centers that are unique destinations and focal points of activity for surrounding neighborhoods. The plan also focuses on the corridors of 10th Avenue, 15th Street, and McFarland Boulevard that function as major gateways and economic engines for the city of Tuscaloosa. The plan states that as these corridors rebuild, there is an opportunity to address long-existing challenges, including underutilized and difficult to assemble parcels, dated uses, building designs, and excessive driveway excesses. According to the Tuscaloosa Forward plan, 15th Street is transformed from an auto-dominated corridor with sections of underutilized commercial parcels into a highly functional corridor with a balance of residential, commercial, and mixed uses. Improved streetscape and building design will enhance the quality and visual appearance of the corridor, encouraging pedestrian and bicycle activity, improving traffic flow, and spurring new private investment. Located centrally on 15th Street and centrally within the city, a new village center at 15th Street and McFarland Boulevard provides shopping, dining, and entertainment options in a compact, walkable environment with attractive public spaces that serve adjacent residents and the wider community alike. A greenway corridor acts as a central amenity within the village center while preserving floodways and linking to surround neighborhoods. The section of the plan that visualizes the future of 15th Street and McFarland Boulevard is written in the verb tense that indicates that it has already occurred without representation of the property owners. Did I lose my property rights at the time the tornado destroyed my building? At what point did the 501 15th Street become property of the community, allowing the city of Tuscaloosa to plan and control the use of my property without my involvement? During the numerous planning meetings that I attended, I questioned the city representatives of the Tuscaloosa Forward plan about its effect on businesses. I was informed that the Tuscaloosa Forward plan was a strategic community plan, and I came away from each meeting with unanswered questions for business owners. The vision sounds wonderful until you visualize the reality of 15th Street and McFarland Boulevard. They are both 6 lanes wide, where the traffic count at their intersection can be as high as 70,000 cars a day.
I'm Ernest Parker, 501 15th Street East. I wish to yield my time to Sue Parker.
That'll be fine.
They are major thoroughfares that connect Tuscaloosa from the north to the south and from the east to the west. The speed limit is 45. For those of us who own property and operate our businesses on these thoroughfares, we cannot comprehend how they can encourage pedestrian and bicycle activity safely. The disheartening truth for business property owners located on 15th Street and McFarland Boulevard is the realization that the Tuscaloosa Forward plan does not speak to businesses in a language that entrepreneurs accept, understand, or trust. With such a high level of vagueness in the interpretation of the plan, there were 2 business owners who served on the City of Tuscaloosa Planning Commission who voted no for that reason. Therefore, I strongly urge the council members to follow the decisions of 2 very successful business leaders in the City of Tuscaloosa by voting against the Tuscaloosa Forward plan. Businesses that are located at 15th Street and McFarland Boulevard cannot see where we fit in to the future plan. Please look at the plan and envision how that we can work with the plan that has been presented. Thank you for your time. I appreciate your kind attention.
Thank you, Ms. Parker.
The final citizens' comment on this agenda item will be given by Mr. Kenneth Walters.
Kenneth Walters is my name. I'm a retiree from B.F. Goodrich. I've always lived in the city of Tuscaloosa except for the last 16 years, but I can say this, I've always been very, very involved in this city. And just sitting here 30 years ago was 1981. And I've always been involved, just like I had said a few minutes ago, always been involved in politics and everything, this city hall and everything. And I'd just like to say tonight I've seen something that's totally different in the last 30 years that this city's been led. Tonight, this is the first time I've ever seen where we've skipped all the way through the agenda and took probably the most important issue tonight that was held first. And, you know, the people need to recognize the mayor and the city council, because whether you're for this or you're against it and everything, there's one thing cannot be said about this mayor and his council. From ever since this tornado come through and all the meetings they've had with the communities and everything, the people of Tuscaloosa has had an opportunity to go to these meetings. I also went to the variance committee, also went to the city and planning committee meeting, and even at those meetings, except the variance committee meeting, but the city planning committee, they let everybody come and talk as long as they wanted to, and whether or not ever how this goes, and some people are going to be happy and some people are going to be mad. But this is just part of the change over the last 30 years. And, you know, this ain't the first time I've ever addressed this council, just like the last 30 years. And this is the first time I've ever seen that they put this agenda up front to let the people have their say-so up here. And that goes a lot for this mayor and this city council. And y'all should be appreciative of that, because I've been up here when you're called out of order and you're told that, you know, they don't want to hear it. At least this city council and mayor has let y'all come up here and talk. Because I've been here when the other leadership here and the president wasn't so true. This is a global economy, and I was told this many, many times. And you know what? Only the big is going to survive in this country now. And I know it's going to be tough on these small businesses. And small business is a tough business to be in. And the big global companies, they're out to put everybody out of business, people. But that's just the way it is in this country now. And I wished I could turn time back 30 years ago. There'd be a lot of things I would change, but I can't change it. A lot of things I'd like to change back at B.F. Goodrich, Bridgestone, Firestone. And I've been here, sitting over here on this side when you leave here, beat up and shot up. But, you know, this city is going to continue on. The people's going to make it. That's just the way it is. And I appreciate y'all's time tonight, Mayor, and I appreciate the good job y'all are doing. Like I said, I don't really have a dog in this fight tonight, but I want to tell you what a good job that y'all have done and all of y'all done. And it's some things that's going to happen. Some of the people are going to be happy tonight, but later on they're not going to be happy. And, you know, for the last 30 years, there have been a lot of things changed in the working environment in this country I'm not happy with. I'm not happy with the global economy. I'm not happy with Barack Obama. I'm not happy with none of these people no more. But that's just the way the world is. I appreciate the fine job y'all doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, that closes our citizens' comments.
Thank you, Ms. Croom. Mr. McConnell, if you would come forward with the staff report.
Yeah, he's converted. Yes, ma'am.
If you would, this is the staff's last opportunity to discuss. Do you have any comments or any things you'd like to address?
Nothing other than, as from the beginning, we hope the council does consider the plan and approve the plan. I think it's our best means of moving forward from this. The things that the business owners are dealing with right now have been in place for a long time, some longer than others. Some date back as far as 1972. We can't change those things unless we have a change in comprehensive planning. That's the foundation, the legal foundation for changing zoning ordinances. I agree with the business owners out there. These ordinances don't fit their needs. But our only chance to change is adopting a plan, having a direction, and implementing that plan through codes, ordinances, initiatives, programs, and everything we can do to change our situation. That's really all I wanted to say to the council, unless you have any questions of me.
Any questions of Mr. McConnell?
John, I got I know 15th Street is talked about a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The landscape ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't just happen after April 27, when it was already in place, right?
That was one of the newer ordinances that the businesses are facing right now. That was adopted in 2008, early 2008. So that is something that is actually the newest thing.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't happen just April 27th and after.
No, sir.
That's what. Also, the parking spaces, that was already in place.
Yes, sir. We've had some minor changes to residential parking requirements. The business parking requirement is, as far as I know, been there since the ordinance was created in 72.
Yeah.
There have been some minor adjustments, but what we've realized through the process, too, in working with the professionals that we have, is they realize right off our current parking codes are out of whack. They're excessive in some cases. They're right on the money in other cases, but in situations where you have small businesses, they're excessive, and we recognize that. But, of course, they are. It's a 1972 code. It addresses a 1972 suburban ideal of Tuscaloosa. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to get those things corrected. Also, our landscape ordinance, as it's currently written, there are different provisions for the downtown, where you have more of an urban environment, and they're a lot different from what's required elsewhere in the suburban environments. In the downtown area, we want you to build your lot out completely. So the only landscaping requirements you have are on the right-of-way, on the public way. And if you choose to build an interior parking lot, which really your building requirements make that very difficult to do, you do have some minimum interior landscape requirements. But the landscape requirements that are being imposed right now in these areas, in my opinion, are a little excessive and will probably be changed through the code writing of this process. Again, recognizing this is more of an urban environment. They probably won't go away, I would imagine. I don't think anybody wants them to go away, but I think they'll be designed to be more appropriate to their environment.
Yes, I just want to make that clear that Tuscaloosa Forward doesn't have anything to do with that, do with those codes.
Not with the existing codes. If Tuscaloosa Forward went away today, we'd still be dealing with these challenges. But as I said earlier, we wouldn't have a mechanism to change those challenges.
Also, the 10-foot setback, that have been taken out.
That has been taken out. We've communicated that to all the property owners that we had previously been working with. Recognizing there are some property owners that have not approached our office to build or to permit or to seek a variance. Some of them we just haven't talked to.
There's also a misconception, John. I think that we're going to be condemning people's property in their backyards and making walking trails, but that's not.
I think we've established from the beginning that I don't think that would be the city's approach to it. Of course, that's entirely in the council's hands, but I imagine me being a property owner, which I am, and I live here and I'm a citizen here, I think the city would have a hard time condemning my property. I would probably not like that.
Yeah.
And so if the city wanted to build a trail across my property, and I was opposed to it, I don't think it would go very far in a community. So I think that the approach that the city should take in this is partnering with the community. Many neighbors have already reached out to us. A couple of churches have reached out to us and said, I want to be a part of this. How can we make this work? And I think that's where we'll have our best opportunity to make those trail connections. Ultimately, you've seen how long it's taken to do the Riverwalk Trail. It's going to take years. But I think it will ultimately be a huge amenity for the citizens of Tuscaloosa. It gives us a recreation opportunity that we don't have right now.
But basically what you're saying, though, we're not going to be forcing anybody to do that, because this council will have to do it. But
yeah, the council would have to do that. And I can't speak for the council, but I don't think that would be the first or best course of action, no.
That's about it, John. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. McConnell. Would any city council members like to make any comments before we call for a vote?
Mayor, I just wanted to say I appreciate all the leadership that you and your staff has provided. I think we've heard that, no matter what, whether you're for, against, part, all, some of this plan, people have had an opportunity to speak. I mean, it's their city, and it's going to be impossible for 7 elected officials, along with yourself, that's elected at large, to be able to do something that everybody's going to be completely ecstatic about. But there's no question the process that you all have led to bring us to this night has been open, transparent, and efficient, which I know has always been how your administration and your employees have conducted business at City Hall, and that's to be commended. I don't agree with every single bit of this plan either. Where the actual greenway will go, won't go, whether it should be in somebody's backyard or whether it's part of an overall landscape sidewalk on 15th Street, I mean, who knows? We just don't know all those intricate details, but you got to lay something out and then just keep working it. This is not going to be the first or last conversation or night that we have a packed room debating how this thing eventually looks 5 years from now. So, but I do think that, again, my whole thought has been is that a plan that creates anxiety is better than having no plan at all. I know that doesn't really sound that good, but it is true. So I am going to support it. I think it's taken a lot of work and effort. I don't agree with every piece of it, but I think it takes us to the next level. As John said, we can have an opportunity to look at our codes, especially in these areas, and really try to figure out the best way to build back. I think that some of the new codes that we did pass, like the landscaping ordinance, the sign ordinance, and certain things of that nature, we didn't expect them all to come to the test with hundreds of businesses. It would be, as businesses redeveloped over time, they would be affected by it, and we could tweak those ordinances if need be to make them better and better. This is going to really allow us to focus in on some of those newer ordinances and come up maybe with some tweaks and stuff that still give us the outcome of a positive feel for the areas and the aesthetics and the area that the improvements that we need in those areas to come back better. So I'm looking forward to working through those in the next few months. This is just the first start of many steps that we're going to have in the next few months.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I would, Mayor. I'll try to be as brief as possible. I want to thank you once again, as I've told you so many occasions, for your leadership. And it's been pretty remarkable. I don't know of anyone that could have done a better job of leading the city through that since that horrible day than you have. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And to all my colleagues up here, we certainly don't agree on everything by far. Just like you have disagreements within your own family on just about every issue as well. I think I probably through fate, whatever, I understand maybe the trauma that the people have gone through, maybe more than most. I lost a house, I lost my office, my parents lost their family business of over 50 years. My mom had significant damage to her house. The house I'm currently in, was my grandparents' home, and significant damage there, as well as the storage house and so many other areas. You know, I should have lost my car completely, but I couldn't quite get them to total that one out. But I did have every window replaced but one. It was a day I'll never forget, and there's no way to describe how it feels to lose everything. As I was telling the council earlier to you, you've lost it. I mean, when you all of a sudden somebody asks you when you're going through, goodness gracious, contents. I mean, how many people have gone through that? Contents. Where do you start? You know, and policy numbers, records, pictures, to the ultimate loss of life, which so many went through. And how many funerals did we attend the first couple of weeks? I have had the most wonderful, I think, conversations with David Cusimano, John Carney, Dan Marler, the Parkers, and truly felt like that I was really knew how they felt. And my quest as a councilman was I couldn't answer those questions at that time. My quest was to be able to get with the people who I felt great confidence in, and that I could, with great confidence, give you proper answers. And I think what I found out, and through my conversations with through a long meeting with John McConnell, a long meeting with one person that so of course I have respect for everyone up here and every job that they do, but Robin Edgeworth and John Brooks have been incredible incident command leaders as appointed by the mayor, and then I had a great conversation with the mayor today. This is just the beginning. This is just, there's nothing that we're going to, if we pass this tonight, or if it didn't pass tonight, this is just a vision, just like the mayor had years ago as a councilman, had a want for a comprehensive plan, a need for a comprehensive plan. I questioned that at the time and became the biggest fan of it. And because you can't grow until you know where you're going. Nothing's going to change. No laws are going to be tomorrow. There's not going to be any new regulations, new ordinances from this. But you do have to have a start. And one thing I told John before, again, now if we pass this tonight, this is the assurances I've gotten, and I've done our interviews that'll be hopefully in the Tuscaloosa News tomorrow. So I'll have documentation too, is that this is just, it is just the beginning. Now we'll take everything that's in Tuscaloosa Forward and we'll pull it out. We'll dissect it like you did in biology class. And I think it's up to you and it's up to us as a governing body to let everybody know when we're doing this dissecting. So there's a problem with the Greenway. Until we look at the Greenway from Alberta all the way to the 359, Rosedale. That doesn't mean we're going to have one, or that doesn't mean it's going to be all a certain way. That means that every one of you will be able to have an input in that, and we as then a council will vote on a final plan for that Greenway. It doesn't mean that we're going to necessarily come through your property just because it may show it on a map right now that it comes close to it. This is where I think that the involvement from the community and our constituents will play the biggest role. Now that you've kind of narrowed it down and we're in the now going through halftime or whatever of the ball game. We've come this far, we're down this far, and now we'll narrow it down even further. And as far as the setbacks, as we already know about that, and as far as parking behind buildings and all different things, as far as even revisiting the sign ordinance, which everybody knows that as much as great respect that I have for sign ordinance, I happen to be one that likes signs, and I like signs heights, but I'm in a minority up here on that. But regardless, the great thing about it is I think it has been this process, and I have not necessarily been an opponent of Tuscaloosa Forward. I've probably been a little bit more skeptical than most people because of the personal loss from that day, and understanding from you business owners exactly what I hear from my family, and all of a sudden just everything gone. 52 years of business gone, your record's gone, and it's something I would never wish on on my worst enemy to go through that type of loss. But I am going to vote for this tonight in favor. And I'm doing it because I have gotten the assurances from everyone up here and from Robin Edgeworth, who I again have just such tremendous respect for, and that this is the beginning, and now we can take a look at this huge vision and make it to what will be the best for rebuilding this entire city. And I do believe that that's how it will happen. I do believe we'll take parts one at a time, just like dissecting, as I said in biology class, which, by the way, I wasn't very good at. But and then everybody's still going to have probably even a bigger role in how this all turns out. But nothing we vote on, when we vote on tonight, nothing's going to go into law tomorrow about this vision. But you've got to have somewhere to start. And I thank you so much for all the calls and for your participation. And I have tried within, as I told the mayor earlier, I've just tried to really, really get the answers for you and take the things that I learned from you out there. I look at so many faces right now. I learned a lot from you guys of what to ask. And I must say that I feel very confident now in voting yes, and that this is not the end. It is strictly a beginning, and we got to look at it as a very positive night for our city.
Thank you. Any other citizens' comments? Council comments?
I'd just like to say, Mayor, that I've appreciated all the calls and the dialogue I've had with citizens, even though District 1 wasn't directly affected. Being one of the city council people, I was concerned. And after having been acclimated to the process and learning that it's not a law change of any sort, but the framework to start from, I have come to appreciate it and look forward to getting down to work and trying to get some of these things done and having the citizens' input on it. And I can support it now that I'm familiar with it.
Thank you. Any other council comments? All right, we'll close it. Let me close with my comments. First, I think it's important to address some facts. Number one, Joplin is participating in federal funds. In fact, they plan on seeking $1.2 billion worth of federal funds. Both sources from the Tuscaloosa News, Joplin Globe, and direct conversations with the leaders of their city. Plus, we have also discussed working together for supplemental federal funding. So that's fact one. Number two is that Joplin is not completed with their cleanup. They have over 1,700 structures that still remain. They had about 9,000 that were severely damaged or destroyed. FEMA did leave after 90 days, but not with the agreement of Joplin. And now Joplin is having to be responsible for a large part of that cleanup. They still have a lot of debris on the right-of-way and a monumental task. They have done a fabulous job. But to say that Joplin is clean is not an accurate description in the least bit. And that their schools opened on time, and they did. And they did a remarkable job. But not one of their schools have been demolished. And by the way, our schools opened on time, thanks to the hard work of the City Board of Education and the Tuscaloosa County Board of Education. During this process, it's been extraordinary. I don't believe 131 days ago any of us could envision the task before us. Whether you agree or disagree, there's been the hard work of dozens of individuals who literally have put their heart and soul into trying to make this city better. Whether you agree that we're going in the right direction or not, our hearts and the intensity of effort has been there for the people of Tuscaloosa. I'm fond of saying that results will always overcome rhetoric. In the end, Winston Churchill has a great saying, and I absolutely just take it to heart. He says, "The truth is incontrovertible. Malice may attack it. Ignorance may deride it. But in the end, there it is." The truth is that the success of Tuscaloosa Forward will not be borne out 6 months from now. Quite frankly, the success of Tuscaloosa Forward may not be borne out until 6 years from now. But there has to be a first step. And there has to be a legal foundation by which to adjust the issues that are heard tonight. How many times in the last 131 days have we heard issues regarding landscaping, regarding parking, regarding setback? Those are real issues that are affecting our small business owners. If Tuscaloosa Forward fails tonight, we are no step closer than solving that problem tomorrow morning when we wake up. The only real chance we have of helping great business owners along that corridor is to change the vision that gives us the legal framework to change the codes. Joplin was ahead of us. In 2007, they redid their comprehensive plan that allowed for more conformity than what we have here in Tuscaloosa today. They were ahead of us. We are behind. We have to catch up. You know, for years, I've been in office 10 years, 6 as mayor. And one of the things that I'm always told is that, you know, you guys just think in 4-year increments. Well, tonight, I believe the City Council is going to show you that we're going to take the long view, that we're going to take the generational view, the view that you've asked us time and time again to think about, we're going to take. And the truth is that whoever's right and whoever's wrong, quite frankly, we won't know it for some time. But I do believe it's absolutely necessary that we start with the vision. Do I know this is going to succeed? Absolutely not. But let me lastly share with you what I do know. I do know that on April 26th, we were having issues. We were having issues along the 10th Avenue corridor around Rosedale of development and growth. We were having issues along the 15th Street corridor. We were having issues along University Boulevard in Alberta. What we were doing on April 26th was not working for those communities. We know that. That is undisputed. I commend the City Council for going through one of the most open and transparent processes. And I'm not naive to think that everyone in this room is going to walk out of here tonight and feel that they're 100% behind this. To the contrary, I know many of you will leave and to some extent will believe that this has no chance of success. I respect that. That's what makes this country great. But what I do ask is this, is that you give it a chance, an opportunity to pass. I think many of the business owners that I've talked to over the past probably 130-something days, they have seen this city's willingness to work with you. Later on tonight, if this plan passes, we're going to take even further steps to work with those business owners. And you're going to continue to see the flexibility of this city. That flexibility has been seen in over 2,000 building permits valued at over $60 million that have been issued in the recovery area. Those are facts. That is the truth. And I can guarantee you that the intensity of effort out of our office, the City Council, and 1,300 city employees is going to be unparalleled. I promise you that. To all those who have participated in this process, thank you. Your voices have been heard, and they're going to continue to be heard in the days going forward. I'm going to call for the vote. Has it been moved and seconded?
Yes, sir, it has.
Okay. Voting, Mr. Howard.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
The resolution carries. I know that many of you are here tonight for the Tuscaloosa Forward. We'll take a brief recess to allow you to exit. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Now, with all my heart. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, I didn't mean to preach.
Set. Set.
Did you guys enjoy their stay?
Thank you for introducing yourself. And
I think they were impressed.
Live in your district, Mom? What? Live in your district?
Yeah, he comes from Ghana. He's the one that sponsors the Ghana delegation.
Oh, okay. You live here now?
Yeah, teaching here.
Okay.
John McConnell's one of the star pupils.
Good to meet you.
Let's move. Keep it up, man.
Hey, Bob.
Hey. Well, appreciate all y'all.
Take care of those. At least take care of those. That's fine.
I just can't handle it. Listen, I respect her.
Sometime, but we'll make it. Yeah, we got it. Yeah, we have it.
Anything else good on that agenda tonight?
Oh, me. Thanks. Good to see you here.
Yeah. Oh, we're
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. President, we're going to go ahead and I'd ask the audience. We appreciate the audience is patient. I think everyone needed to take a quick break, but we're going to go ahead and reconvene. Clerk, are there any other agenda items that we have comments by citizens?
No, sir.
Okay. Consent agenda, clerk.
This will approve items A through H on the consent agenda.
Call for adoption.